In this video, I'll start off with a brief history of my 25-year collaboration with GR Mouthpieces, and then I'll demonstrate the models in the CS Signature Line. If you want to jump right to the demonstrations, the timestamp will be in the description. If you're new to the channel, my name is Chase Sanborn and I'm a jazz trumpet player based in Toronto. I was first introduced to Gary Radke, who is better known as GR, by my colleague Brian Scriver around the year 2000. At that time, GR was unknown to me and most of the trumpet world, although by now he's pretty much a household name for those of us in the know. With his past history as a trumpet player and his skills as a master machinist, GR developed a revolutionary new approach to designing and manufacturing trumpet mouthpieces, and he and Brian teamed up as business partners to produce them. Prior to the initial release of the GR line, Brian asked if I'd consider being an endorsing artist, if GR could make me a mouthpiece that was better than what I was playing. Well, that was a big if, because I'd spent a number of years working with another well-regarded mouthpiece maker. I was happy with what I was playing, and I had no reason to consider a switch. But as a courtesy to a colleague, I agreed to see what this new guy could do. Because I'm in Toronto and GR is in Milwaukee, I sent him recordings, and we spent quite a few hours talking on the phone. Well, mostly he talked and I listened, because GR has a deep understanding of the way physics and flow dynamics impact the design characteristics of a mouthpiece. Now that was, and still is, over my head, and without an actual mouthpiece to try it was pretty much going in one ear and out the other. My interest perked up when I received the first prototype, because I knew in just a few notes that all the jargon had manifested itself in a mouthpiece that was indeed better than anything that I'd ever played. As it turned out, that mouthpiece was just the starting point, because it was followed by a series of prototypes, each one a little bit better than the last. Eventually, we settled on a design that was based on my playing requirements as a jazz and commercial trumpet player, earning my living primarily in the recording studios and theater pits. After getting positive feedback from other Toronto trumpet players on what was at the time a one-off mouthpiece, I agreed to offer it up for sale as a GR signature model, the CS66. There were a few interim steps that I won't go into, but in the end I found myself in the business of selling trumpet mouthpieces, which was not something that I had initially anticipated. From a marketing perspective, it was a challenge trying to get people to order a relatively expensive handmade mouthpiece from an unknown manufacturer. But the early adopters showed up and word started to spread about my signature line, but also the GR line, which launched around the same time. I watched as skeptics turned into believers once people got wind of what was coming out of GR's shop. Eventually, the CS line was expanded to other models, and we'll get into that during the demonstrations. But first, let's consider what it means to buy a signature model, and this applies to horns as well as mouthpieces. What makes a person think that a mouthpiece that's designed specifically for Chase Sanborn, or for that matter, a trumpet that's designed for Wayne Bergeron, will work for them? The answer is no mouthpiece or horn is right for everyone. That's why we have so many of them. Still, we don't need a custom mouthpiece for each person. A mouthpiece that works for one good player will work for a lot of others too, as exemplified by the many people who play the CS mouthpieces today. The comments from players on my website will give you a sense of what folks have experienced coming from a range of other mouthpieces. When you buy a signature model, you reap the benefit of a lot of R&D to arrive at a specific design. That's not a guarantee that it's the right design for you, but you'll know that a lot of thought and experimentation went into it. In the case of mouthpieces from GR, that intensive design process is matched by a level of manufacturing that sets the bar for trumpet mouthpieces. There's just nobody making better mouthpieces than GR. Now I'll demonstrate the models in the CS Signature line, which includes 4 trumpet cups, along with matching models for Flugelhorn, Cornet, and Piccolo trumpet. I use the 66 rim on all of them, which is a similar diameter to a Bach 3. I also stock all the models in the 65 diameter, which is comparable to a Bach 7, and I keep a limited stock in the 67 diameter, which is comparable to a Bach 1 or 1.5. The demos you're about to see were actually recorded about 5 years ago when I was just getting started on YouTube. My skills as a videographer have improved since then, hopefully, but I think that the demonstrations still give an accurate portrayal of the mouthpieces, so we'll jump back and forth in time. I start off by demonstrating 3 trumpet cups, the CS66M, the CS66MS, and the CS66S. They range in size from about a Bach C cup in the CS66M to a pretty shallow lead mouthpiece in the CS66S. The design goal was to produce a matched set in which each mouthpiece has different tonal qualities, yet they feel similar to play, making it relatively easy to switch depending on the musical situation. This was something that I always thought was a good idea in principle, but I was never able to achieve it until I started working with GR. His computer program allows him to manipulate all the various parameters to make the mouthpiece fit the player, both physically and musically. In the first demonstration, I actually try to sound exactly the same on all 3 mouthpieces while playing a 2-octave scale. This is to address the question of how much the player's mental concept affects the sound, as opposed to the influence of the mouthpiece. The trumpet I'm playing is a Yamaha Xeno 25th anniversary model. Next, I play the same three mouthpieces again, but this time I change my stylistic concept as I change mouthpieces. By matching the tonal characteristics of the mouthpiece to the sound I hear in my head, I'm able to get a broader tonal range than I would with any one of them. A driving principle for me is that we shouldn't look to a mouthpiece to give us abilities that we don't currently have, but to enhance our current abilities. The difference really comes down to how much effort it takes to produce a given result. For example, if I'm trying to play high notes, I can do it on the CS66M, but I'm working harder than I would be on the CS66MS or the CS66S. Conversely, if I'm trying for sound with a little bit less of an edge, as if I was playing with a small jazz group, the CS66M is easier to play because the tonal characteristics of the mouthpiece match what I'm trying to produce. The CS66MS is the mouthpiece that I play most often. This was the original design. We called it just the CS66 when there was only one, and it's still the most popular mouthpiece in the CS line. If you're coming from a 3C to a CS66MS, as a lot of players are, you'll probably find that the high notes are quite a bit easier and the sound is brighter and more vibrant. Although it was designed for me as a jazz or commercial player, some classical players have found the CS66MS to be a lifesaver on a pops program. So a reality that we all live with is that a brass player's sound resides within the body, much as it does with a singer, so the mouthpiece or the horn can only have so much effect on the sound. Perhaps you could hear some difference in the last demonstrations, but in the next you'll hear it for sure when I switch from the CS66M to the CS66FD. The FD is a hybrid mouthpiece that produces a sound from the trumpet that lies somewhere between the cornet and the flugelhorn. It's close enough to a flugelhorn that it can substitute in a pinch, but it's really got a sound of its own. It's my go-to mouthpiece when I need to play very soft and gentle. Next up is the CS66FL Flugelhorn mouthpiece. I love playing the flugelhorn, and to me this mouthpiece brings out the core of the sound while making it a seamless transition from the trumpet. I compare this to the FD as well so that you can hear the difference. My flugelhorn is the Yamaha 8315G. Next, I demonstrate the CS66C Cornet mouthpiece, again in a comparison with the FD. I don't play cornet that often. The horn is an Olds Ambassador that I bought for $100 when I needed it for a show. The CS Cornet mouthpiece is designed to be easy for a trumpet player to pick it up and play it. Finally, I demonstrate the CS66P Piccolo trumpet mouthpiece. I'm definitely in the category of doubler on the pick. Nobody's ever asked me to perform the Brandenburg, thankfully. But I am occasionally called on to play it on shows and recording sessions, and the ratio of money earned to notes played may be greater on the pick than on any other horn. The pick is used to play in the upper register, of course, and the mouthpiece needs to be designed with that in mind. The cup volume is probably similar to the CS66S trumpet cup, but GR has made changes to the backbore and other elements specifically for the smaller horn. One thing to note is that Piccolo trumpets use two different mouthpiece shanks. The CS Piccolo mouthpieces come with a smaller Cornet shank. If your horn takes a regular trumpet shank like my Yamaha 6810, you'll need to order an adapter as well. One of the unique aspects of the CS line is that they are designed from the ground up as a matched set. The chances are that if you like one of the trumpet mouthpieces, you'll be happy with all the others as well. The one caveat would be the S cup. Not everybody can play a cup that shallow without the lips bottoming out. I point to the Shoki 14A4A as a potential comparison. I haven't actually known anybody to experience that on the MS or the M cups. Let me know in the comments what mouthpiece you play or have played, and if you're considering a switch, what would you be looking for? You can find a lot more information on my website, which is chasesanborn.com, and if you have any questions, you can put them in the comments or reach out to me through the website. But before you move on, as always, please click the like button and stay tuned for more thoughts from the addled brain of a jazz trumpet player.